How did China get high-speed rail technology? In 2004, China realized the importance of high-speed rail to economic development, so the Ministry of Railways entrusted China Technology International Tendering Company, bidding for China Railways' sixth speed-up, 200-kilometer EMU train, and placed a large order for 140 EMUs with a value of nearly $10 billion. This tender has attracted the attention of many high-speed rail companies in the world. If the bid is won, it means that there will be an opportunity to monopolize the huge high-speed EMU market in China. This tender has two clear requirements. The first is that the core technology must be transferred, and then the Chinese brand must be used. Why China sets these two requirements? It also starts with the story of China Steel. At that time, China's steel production was the largest in the world. However, Chinese steel companies have no bargaining power when negotiating iron ore prices with foreign companies, and have suffered repeated defeats for many years. Why China lost iron ore price negotiations? Because there are no strategic buyers. At that time, domestic iron and steel companies were not united, and some companies secretly signed iron ore purchase agreements with sellers. And the price is a lot higher than your bottom line. So no matter how you negotiate, you can only surrender in the end. Chinese enterprises fall into blind competition, which ultimately leads to damage to their own interests. The introduction of technology for China's high-speed trains has perfectly implemented the strategic buyer strategy, which can be described as a modern version of 2 peaches kill 3 soldiers. At that time, there were about 40 rail transit manufacturing companies in China. If this restriction is lifted and all companies are allowed to conduct technical cooperation with foreign companies, then there will be only one result, and domestic companies will lose the initiative to negotiate. And it will be difficult to obtain real high-speed rail technology. So the Ministry of Railways swung the sword to cut off all the roads and designated 2 domestic companies. At that time, if foreign companies wanted to enter the Chinese market, they could only cooperate with CRRC Chenqi and CRRC Sifang, and complete a thorough technology transfer. 3 soldiers, Siemens of Germany, Alstom of France, and Kawasaki Heavy Industries of Japan, who want to enter the Chinese high-speed rail market, began to sharpen their knives. Obviously, there are more wolves and less meat, and Chinese companies occupy a favorable position. Where is Bombardier Canada? At this time, the high-speed rail giant Bombardier has been secretly delighted. Because as early as many years ago, he established a joint venture with a Chinese company Qingdao Sifang Bombardier Railway Equipment Company, Limited. They have determined that they are eligible for this tender. How big is this cake thrown by the Ministry of Railways? To meet the requirements of operating at a speed of 200 km per hour, a total of 140 locomotives will be worth about $10 billion. This suddenly makes foreign companies coveted. Media from all over the world agree that China is already the world's largest high-speed rail market. Losing China's high-speed rail market will lose its future. Of course, it is not so easy to share this cake. In order to achieve the purpose of exchanging the market for technology, China has set many requirements. 1. The bidding company must be legally registered in China. This suddenly blocked Germany's Siemens, France's Alstom, and Japan's Kawasaki Heavy Industries. Only Bombardier is left because there is a joint venture Qingdao Sifang Bombardier Railway Equipment Company, Limited. 2. This enterprise must also have foreign partners to provide technical support. The purpose of this requirement is to obtain the core technology of foreign companies. Number 3. This enterprise must have mature technology for trains with a speed of 200 km per hour. In short, foreign companies cannot bid alone, and domestic companies cannot bid alone too. A Chinese company and a foreign company must join forces before bidding. Moreover, foreign companies can only seek cooperation with two Chinese-funded companies, CRRC Changi and CRRC Sifang. This move of the Ministry of Railways is really quite clever. Foreign companies can only come up with their core technologies to cooperate with Chinese companies. How can China ensure that these foreign companies transfer technology to the two Chinese companies? Of course, the Ministry of Railways has a big move. The Ministry of Railways requires that companies participating in the bidding must be companies that have signed complete technology transfer contracts with foreign companies. If they fail to do this, they will not be eligible to bid. Faced with a super large order of up to 140 emus, this was unprecedented in the history of the world's high-speed rail at that time, and no one wanted to lose such an opportunity. Moreover, the calibers of major global information agencies are surprisingly consistent. China has become the world's largest high-speed rail market, so for these high-speed rail foreign companies, no one can afford to fail this bid. It is this huge temptation that brings these foreign companies to the road planned by the Ministry of Railways step by step. At the same time, the Ministry of Railways has also set up a firewall called Technology Transfer Implementation Evaluation. The focus of the assessment is not on how well the teachers teach, but on how well the students learn. As long as the students do not learn well, these foreign companies will still not get the money. Faced with such harsh assessment standards, these soldiers have no choice but to bring out all of their core technologies to win the two peaches of CRRC Sifang and CRRC Changi.